Our loving God in heaven,
Mwari
you've
wedu
brought us
kudenga
safely through another week.
matunza
We are
zvakanaka
grateful
pavhiki
for all that
rino.
is done on our
Tinotenda
behalf. We have
nezvese
life and strength and
zvamunotiita
health
tine
and
upenyu
your loving
nesimba
kindness and your truth. We,
nechokwadi chenyu
as we prepare to
nekuda
enter into your
kwamunoita
Sabbath, may our
patinogadzirira kupinda musabata
thoughts
dei
and
pfungwa dzedu
emotions be
emotions
channeled
edu
in your direction.
zvainga
We
iswa
ask for
kudirection yenyu.
guidance in this discussion,
Tinokumbirawo
that we may
kutungamirirwa
see your glory and
madiscussion
also understand
tigoonawo
the
mbiri yenyu
issues that are
nekunzwisisa
challenging us
maissues ari kutichallenge
at the moment.
panguva
So
ino.
we leave ourselves in your
Saka
care.
tinozvisiya
Just
mumaoko
thank you
enyu,
for the
chikutendai
truth that has
nechokwadi
opened our eyes to
chakavhura
all
meso
the world
edu
events
kune maevents
that
ese
are
epanyika
showing us where we are.
ari kutiratidza
And we
patiri.
pray for that preparation to
Tonamatira
be ready for the
mapreparations
test.
ayo kuti
We
tinge
ask in
takagadzirira
Jesus'
test
name.
iyi.
Amen.
Tinamata muzita rajesu, amen.
So I hope you've all had a good week and you've been able
Ndinovimba
to
kuti
sleep
tatine vhiki
soundly, knowing
rakanaka,
that no
tarara zvakanaka,
superintelligent AI is going to
tichiziva kuti
turn the
hapana
world into
superintelligent
paper clips and
AI
kill us all.
ichachinja nyika kuti
I hope
igogadzira mapaper
those
clips nezvinhu
fears
zvakadaro.
were dispelled,
Kutya ikoko
and we want
kwakadzimwa.
to just continue looking at
Toda
artificial
kuramba
intelligence
tichingotarisa artificial
tonight
intelligence nhasi.
and what it is that we do have to be worried
Chii
about.
chatinofanira kuve worried about.
So I'm just going to read from
Ndichangoverengawo
Wikipedia
kubva kuwikipedia
about existential risk
nenyaya
from
yema-existential
artificial
risk
general intelligence,
kubva kuartificial
because there
general
are loud
intelligence.
voices
Nekuti kune
with
mazwi
lots of
ari
money that
pamusoro-soro
are
ane mari dzakawanda
promoting this
ari
fear
kukurudzira
of existential
kutya
risk through AI.
kwema-existential risk
Existential
kubudikidza
risk from
ne-artificial
artificial
intelligence.
general intelligence is
Existential
the
risk
hypothesis
inobva
that
kuartificial
substantial
intelligence
progress in
ihypothesis
artificial
yekuti
general intelligence
intelligence iri
could result
substantial
in human
muartificial
extinction
general
or
intelligence
some other
inogona
unrecoverable
kuzoresulta
global catastrophe.
mukupera kwevanhu kana
It is argued
mukatastrophe
that the human
yepasitenderere.
species currently
Vanoti
dominates other species
vanhu
because the
vanodominata
human
dzimwe
brain
mhuka dzose
has some
nekuti pfungwa
distinctive
dzemunhu dzine
capabilities that
macapabilities
other
ari
animals lack.
distinctive asina dzimwe
If
mhuka.
AI
Dei
surpasses
artificial
humanity
intelligence
in general
yaizopfuurawo
intelligence and
intelligence
becomes
dzevanhu
super intelligent,
yozova iyo ndiyo
then
iri
it could become
superintelligent,
difficult or impossible for humans
zvinozoomera
to
vanhu
control.
kuti vagoicontrol.
Just as the fate of the mountain gorilla
Sefate
depends on
yemountain
human
gorilla
goodwill,
ichidependa
so might the fate of
negoodwill yevanhu.
humanity depend on
Fate
the
yevanhu
actions of a future
inodependawo
machine
nema-actions
superintelligence.
super
So why
intelligence machine
are mountain
yekumberi.
gorillas alive today?
Sei ma-mountain
It's
gorillas
because we're
asipo.
basically nice people and we
Inyaya
allow them to
yekuti
be alive.
tiri vanhu
And
vakanaka ende
what if you
tinomatendera
had
kuti ararama.
something
Kana paine chimwe
that
chinhu
was more intelligent than
chine
us
intelligence
that
yakawanda
didn't
kupfuura
feel
isusu
that way
chinonzwawo
towards
kuti
mountain gorillas? They didn't
ma-mountain
feel
gorillas
anything.
atinei nawo.
So there wouldn't be any push to keep them alive, and we would fall into that same category.
Pane pasina push
The
yekuti aramba
chance of this
achirarama.
type of scenario is widely debated
Vanoramba
and
vachiendera mberi
hinges in
mukuverenga.
part on differing scenarios for future progress in computer science. Once the exclusive domain of science fiction, concerns about superintelligence started to become mainstream in the 2010s and were popularized by public figures such as Stephen Hawking, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk. So they popularized that fear in 2014. Elon Musk said, "We have unleashed the demon." And both he and Hawking said that we are under threat within the next few decades, if not earlier. So a lot of money and energy is going into developing artificial intelligence because we feel that we need it for the future, but also curbing the artificial intelligence, and that is called the alignment problem. So there's a fear that superintelligence won't be aligned with our values. So the question is, whose values do you align the AI with? So does that remind anybody of anything to do with our message? Do we have an alignment problem? Just like scientists and engineers have an alignment problem, that's their term, the alignment problem, with AI. What's our alignment problem and what was given to solve it? Any thoughts? Did we have an alignment problem? Catherine.
Catherine.
Well, we were aligned with the wrong side of the political
Takanga
spectrum,
takaalign-wa
so
ne-wrong side yepolitical
perhaps
spectrum.
that's what
So
you're speaking of.
ndo zvamuri kutaura nezvazvo.
Yeah,
Hongu.
that's why we had the
Ndo
midnight
saka
cry
tine
message.
midnight cry
We were
message.
aligned
Takanga
with wrong
taka-aligna
values.
nema-values asiriwo.
And so we were given a
Naizvozvo
message to
takapiwa
realign
message
us. And that's the
kuti
purpose
itigadzirise
of
kuti
the
titigedye.
reform line.
Ndo
A
basa
reform
re-reform
line
line.
is
Basa
realigning
ra-reform
us so that we
kuti
have the same
gadzirisa kuti
values as God, that we
gedye
are
nema-values
thinking the way he thinks and feeling the way he feels.
nekufunga zvaanofunga nekufila zvaanofila.
Would you like to add anything more to that,
Zvamuda
Catherine?
kuwedzera here, Catherine?
Well, Josephine has her hand up, so perhaps
Josephine ane ruoko pamwe.
I didn't.
Yes,
So
no,
perhaps
Okay.
yeah.
Josephine?
Josephine?
You said, what's the solution? And I'm thinking, maybe I'm thinking wrongly, but I thought the methodology that we're given to, like parable
senge ma-parables
methodology to
methodology
help
yema-parables
us,
kuti
guide us in the right
itidzidzise,
direction.
itigaide kuenda mudirection chaiyo chaiyo.
Yeah, so the
Oh.
messages that we have.
Saka ma-messages
Yeah, so
atinawo ndizvozvo.
God has sent
Mwari akatipa
messages to
ma-message
realign
kuti
us.
tigowe twa-realign.
But first we have to realize that there is a
Tofana
realignment
kutanga
problem, an
kudzidzisa
alignment problem.
dambudziko realignment.
And the
Chekutanga.
same is what is happening in the world. There is
zvakafanana nezvirikuitika
what
munyika.
the scientists and engineers
Sezviri kutaura nema-scientist
and,
nema-engineer aya
promoters of AI are concerned
nevanopromota artificial
that
intelligence vari concerned
these
kuti
AIs are not
ma-artificial
aligned
intelligence
with our
haana
human
kuti
values.
gedye
But
nema-values
what if
edu
that
sevanhu. Asi
alignment is somebody
alignment
like a
iyi,
DeSantis?
kana iri yako
Who are
yemunhu
you going to
akafanana
align that
naRon
value with?
DeSantis
So this is the
watine
great
ma-values
debate
akasiyana nawo.
amongst
Saka ndo
scientists at
debate
the moment.
iriko
Do we
pakati
even bother?
pema-scientists kuti
Don't we just trust
totomboita here
humanity
zvekualigna zvacho.
to make the right choices?
Hatingotende here kuti vanhu vanoita ma-choices
So,
akanaka vega.
they
Saka
are trying to
vari
solve
kuzama
this alignment problem.
kugadzirisa dambudziko iri realignment.
Somebody put it like this.
Mumwe munhu akazvinyora
The alignment
achiti,
problem
dambudziko
refers to the
realignment
challenges caused by the
ndo
fact that the
ma-challenges
machines
anokonzerwa
simply do not
nefact
have the
yekuti
same values
mamachine
as us.
haana
In
ma-values
fact, when it
akafanana
comes to
nedu.
values,
Patinouya
then at
kunyaya
a
yema-values
fundamental level,
ari fundamental,
machines don't really get much
mishina
more sophisticated
inenge
than understanding that one
sophisticated.
is different from zero.
hainyanyi
So
kuziva,
that's
inongoziva kuti
something that we
one
looked at last week,
yakasiyana nazero.
is that
Chinhu chatakatarisa
they
last
don't
week
have values.
ndechekuti makombiyuta
All
haana
that the
ma-values.
machines
Izvo
understand is that one is
zvinongonzwisiswa
different from
nemakombiyuta
zero.
ndezvekuti one
Basically,
nazero
AI
akasiyana.
is math.
Artificial
Beautiful,
intelligence ingori
amazing,
maths.
brilliant math.
Iri
But
beautiful, iri amazing, but
that's it.
dzingori maths. Ndizvozvo.
So just like we
Saka
see in politics,
sezvatinoona mupolitics uye
in religion, it's a
muchitendero,
polarized world, and it's polarized
inyika iri
in these sciences as
yakapatsanurwa.
well.
Even
So we
kusainzi
went and looked
vakapatsanurana.
at another voice,
Takatarisa rimwe
at
izwi
Melanie Mitchell.
uye
So
ainzi
Melanie Mitchell is the
Mitchell.
Davis Professor of Complexity at the Santa Fe Institute
Ndiprofesa
and
kuSanta Fe
Professor of
Institute.
Computer Science
Professor
at Portland
vecomputer
State
science
University.
Cortland
Her current research
State
focuses
University.
on conceptual
Anofocasa
abstraction, analogy
ne-conceptual
making,
abstraction,
and visual
analogy
recognition
making,
in artificial
ne-visual
intelligence
making,
systems. She's
artificial
the author of
intelligence
6 books,
systems.
numerous
Akanyorawo
scholarly
mabhuku 6
articles. We looked at one
nema-articles
scholarly
akawanda.
article, which was
Takatarisa
2014,
scholarly
and I
article
can put
ina
her up here.
2014
Melanie
yandichaisa
Mitchell, I'll
apa.
just put MM.
Ndichanyora Melanie Mitchell kuti MM.
And she wrote the paper, Why is
Akanyora bepa
AI harder
rainzi
than we
Why
think?
is AI
And she
harder
gave
than
4
we think?
fallacies. So
Akapa
let's review
4
them.
mafallacy.
I'll remind us of the first one. The first
Tichazvirangaridza
fallacy
kune
was
yekutanga.
that
Yekutanga
narrow
yaiti
intelligence is
intelligence
on a
iri naro
continuum
iri
with general
pacontinuum
intelligence. That's
negeneral
a fallacy. It's
intelligence.
not true.
Iyi
So what are we
fallacy
talking
hazvisi
about when
zvechokwadi.
we
Saka chatinenge
say
tichireva
narrow
patinoti narrow
intelligence?
intelligence chii?
I had an experience just a couple of
Ndakaita
weeks ago. I
experience
was
mavhiki
shopping in Melbourne.
mashoma
I was at
apfuura
a supermarket
ndaitenga
that we have out here
kumelbourne kusupermarket
in the sticks, but I
yatinayo
went to a larger
kuno.
one in Melbourne.
Ndakaenda kune
And
ihombe
I had one of
kumelbourne
those trolleys that is in a
Ndaiva
deep trolley. It's one of the
nematrolley
high, where you don't have to put
asina
too much
unyanyo
in that trolley.
kukura aya ausingaisi
And I came up
zvakawanda.
to the self-serve
Ndakaenda
checkout.
kuself
I put pears
checkout
on the scales, and I didn't have to press anything. It came up and it gave me a couple of choices, but pairs came up automatically. Usually you have to press fresh produce. Didn't have to do that. Oh, that's interesting. Luck of the draw. Then I put some onions on, same thing. Then I finished my shopping, and it asked me, have you emptied your trolley? And I emptied my trolley, and it wouldn't let me go any further. It says, call assistance. So I called assistance, and I didn't know what the problem was. And she said, she doesn't like the empty bag in your trolley.
Saka wakati kompyuta haisikufarira paper bag risina chinhu riri mutrolley
it knew that I had pears on it, and she's very smart. So it's not a she. We understand that it's an it.
Yeah, it's
but
she,
I
but
think this woman was very proud of this this machine, and this is the advances that is happening in narrow intelligence. I had an empty supermarket bag in my trolley. It knew it was in my trolley. It knew I'd put a pear. So these narrow intelligences are improving all the time. And when we see them, we go, wow. But that doesn't mean that there's any improvement in general AI. They're just not connected. So we're going to continue to see improvements in narrow intelligence. And it will wow us. No closer at all to artificial general intelligence, to human level capabilities. So that was fallacy number one. Can anybody remember one of the other three fallacies? No? Okay, so Josephine?
We discussed that last week, didn't we?
Yeah, there were 4 fallacies about artificial intelligence.
I can remember the one that I actually mentioned, and I'm not in those words, but the reasoning. You can't really reason the computer.
No, why do we use the word reason? What's the fallacy? That's correct. We say that it reasons, we say that it understands, we say that it's thinking. What's the fallacy? What makes us do that?
I'm stumped.
It's okay. We anthropomorphize it. We use human language, human terms for this machine. And that creates confusion. So when we use terms like reason and think and values, they're fallacious terms. Even the word intelligence, scientists argue over that word. So that's 2 fallacies. Anybody remember any others? Okay. The other fallacy is easy things. Catherine.
Okay, Catherine.
No, that's okay. It was a bit last minute. Is it got to do with the brain, and your intelligence is not completely 100% in your brain?
Yes. Keep going.
Well, I think also that article that you shared also was speaking on this point, but there's a lot more to our experience than just what goes on in your brain, because there's a like feedback cycle that happens between your body, your heart rate, your breathing, the impulses that you get from touch, and all of that combines together to give you an experience which you just couldn't replicate with a computer, at least not in the foreseeable future.
Exactly.
It's far too complicated and advanced for them to even start going anywhere near the level that we are capable of.
Thank you. Yes. So the idea of a computer sitting on a desk and a brain sitting in a vat, you can't take the brain away from the body. Just as you explained, it's a holistic intelligence is a holistic experience. So there are more and more scientists recognizing the importance of embodiment and how that will affect artificial general intelligence. Thank you. And the fourth one was that the easy things are easy and hard things are hard. So Melanie went on to explain that what is easy for us is hard for a computer, what is hard for us is easy for a computer. And we'll talk a little bit about that now. So I want to share. So in her book, Melanie Mitchell wrote a book in 2019. I think I gave the wrong date last time. 2019, she wrote a book, and in that book, she speaks about Andre Carpathy. Can't go away. Very good. Andre Carpathy wrote a blog in 2012. Now, who is he? He's a Canadian computer scientist. He served as the director of artificial intelligence and autopilot vision at Tesla. So he still works for Tesla. He specializes in deep learning and computer vision. And this is a blog that he wrote in 2012. And I want you to take a look at this picture here, and I'll read what he writes. As you look at the picture, and I'll read part of his blog underneath. He says, what would it take for a computer to understand this image as you or I do? I challenge you to think explicitly of all the pieces of knowledge that have to fall into place for it to make sense. Here is my short attempt. 1. You recognize it is an image of a bunch of people, and you understand they're in a hallway. You recognize that there are 3 mirrors in the scene, so some of the people are fake replicas from different viewpoints. So I've got a mirror here, a mirror here, and a mirror here. They're in a locker room. You can see they're in a locker room. You recognize Obama from the few pixels that make up his face. It helps that he's in a suit and that he's surrounded by other people with suits. You recognize that there's a person standing on a scale, even though the scale occupies only a very few white pixels that blend with the background. But you've used the person's pose and knowledge of how people interact with objects to figure it out. He's standing on something, he's got his arms up, you know what he's doing. You recognize that Obama has his foot positioned just slightly on top of the scale. Now notice the language. It's in terms of 3D structure in the scene, not the position of the leg in the 2D coordinate system of the image. So we're seeing this as a 3D picture, even though it's a 2D. We know that there is movement and that there is so that there is movement happening in the scene. You know how physics works. Obama is leaning in on the scale, which he's going to apply some force to it. The scale is going to measure the force that's applied on it. And the way it works is it will overestimate the weight of the person on the scale. You figured that out just by looking at it. You know that the person measuring his weight is not aware of Obama doing this. You derive this because you know his pose. You understand that the field of view of a person is finite. He hasn't got eyes in the back of his head. You understand that he's not very likely to sense the slight push push of Obama's foot. You can see the look on his face. You know that he's unaware. Oops, sorry. You understand that people are self-conscious about their weight. You also understand that he is reading off the scale measurement and that shortly the overestimated weight will confuse him because it will probably be much higher than what he expects. In other words, you reason about the implications of the events that are about to unfold seconds after this photo was taken, and especially about the thoughts and how they will develop inside people's heads. You also reason about what pieces of information are available to the people. You're seeing that there's people in the background, that they think it's funny, that there's humor. You have reasoned about the state of the mind of those people and their view of the state of mind of the person on the scale. Okay, that's a lot to reason. And finally, the fact that the perpetrator is the president makes it maybe even a little bit more funny. You know that that is the president of the United States. You understand what actions are more or less likely to be undertaken by different people based on their status and identity. It wouldn't be as funny if it was somebody else. So we look at this image, and there is so much to take in. We have an intuitive knowledge of physics. Whether we studied it at school, liked it at school, did well at school, doesn't matter. You know about the weight going on that scale. You have an intuitive knowledge of biology. You know that the pictures in those frames are not real people. You know that there are legs behind legs, etc. You have an intuitive knowledge of weight. And you also have an intuitive knowledge of psychology, how important weight is to people, what he would be expecting to find on that scale, and people's reactions to it. And he's got a lot to say about this. He says, I could go on, but the point here is that you've used a huge amount of information in that half second when you look at the picture and laugh. And I just want to go down to his bottom comment here. Thinking about the complexity and scale of the problem further, a seemingly inescapable conclusion for me is that we may also need embodiment, and that the only way to build computers that can interpret scenes like we do is to allow them to get exposed to all the years of structured experience, that we have the ability to interact with the world, and some magical active learning inference architecture that I can barely even imagine when I think backwards and about what it should be capable of. So in 2012, this was a blog that he wrote, scientist that's working with Tesla, and 10 years later, nothing's changed. This blog was repeated in Melanie Mitchell's book in 2019, and it's still used today. He's a highly respected scientist. They're no closer to getting a computer to think the way that we do than they were in 2012. 2012 marks the beginning of the AI spring. This is when things really started to bloom, and we'll talk about that a bit more. But 2012 is an important date for AI. So any thoughts? Rachel?
It was interesting when I was looking at that picture, I started writing down some of the words that I was thinking that we just sort of have to understand what that picture was, and you end up reading some of it. But I think the experience thing really stood out for me, having a lifetime of experiences, interactions, connections, and in context. All those things that we process with a blink of an eye. That I could just see that in that picture that you showed. That having that experience is really fundamental to understanding the humour behind that picture and the connection. So yeah, it was just really good to see that picture and analyze what we see.
Yeah, we don't think about it, do we? We just looked at it and go, oh, yeah, that's funny. But all the things that we took in to recognize it as being funny, it was so much in a second. How do you put that into a machine?
That experience, you can't, I don't think.
No. Experience of humor and weight and physics and biology, psychology. You just can't do that. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so we're going to go back to Melanie Mitchell. So there were that she exposed 4 fallacies, and then of regarding AI, and then what actually makes us intelligent. So I want to go to another article, and this is from Quantum Magazine, and we'll just read a couple of paragraphs from this because it's very telling. This was written, when was this written? Sorry, I'll tell you in a minute when I scroll. Oh, I've lost the date. Oh, 2021. 2021. So the computer scientists training AI to think with analogies. Melanie Mitchell has worked on digital minds for decades. She says they'll never truly be like ours until they can make analogies. We'll just read a couple of paragraphs here. The Pulitzer Prize winning book, Gödel, Escher, Bach, inspired legions of computer scientists in 1979, but few were as inspired as Melanie Mitchell. Okay, so Gödel, Escher, Bach was written by Douglas Hofstadter, and he really started even though people have been studying AI and working on that since the 1950s, it was this book that really got people leaving their professions like Melanie Mitchell and wanting to understand artificial intelligence and also how the brain works. So there was a time when artificial intelligence wasn't just about engineering. It was about cognitive science, psychology, all of those things were involved, and that's what's missing today. So I'll just share something that he said, and if I write it down somewhere. Douglas Hofstadter has this quote. Melanie Mitchell quotes it all the time. He says, without concepts, there can be no thought. And without analogies, there can be no concepts. So what is a concept? A concept is something we conceive in our mind. It's a notion or it's an idea. And in this book, which Melanie quotes all the time, This is where he says, without concepts, there can be no thought. Without analogies, there can be no concepts. That analogies are the core of our intelligence. So we'll go back to the article. The Pulitzer Prize winning book, Go to Leschel Bar, so that's 1975. It inspired Mitchell. She was a high school math teacher in New York. She decided she needed to be in artificial intelligence. That's once she read the book. She soon tracked down the book's author, AI researcher Douglas Hofstadter, and talked him into giving her an internship. She had only taken a handful of computer science courses at the time, but he seemed impressed with her chutzpah and unconcerned about her academic credentials. Mitchell prepared a last-minute graduate school application and joined Hofstadter's new lab at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. The two spent the next 6 years collaborating closely on Copycat, a computer program which, in the words of its co-creators, was designed to discover insightful analogies and to do so in a psychologically realistic way. The analogies of Copycat came up with were between simple patterns of letters, akin to the analogies on standardized tests. So if you were to sit an intelligence test, you'd have questions like, if the string ABC changes to the string ABD, what does the string PQRS change to? So you do those analogous tests when you have an intelligence test, and these were part of standardized tests in America as well. That's what they do for their school curriculum. Hofstadter and Mitchell believe that understanding the cognitive process of analogy, how human beings make abstract connections between similar ideas, perceptions, and experiences would be crucial to unlocking human-like artificial intelligence. Mitchell maintains that analogy can go much deeper than exam-style pattern making. It's understanding the essence of a situation by mapping it to another situation that is already understood, she said. If you tell me a story and I say, oh, the same thing happened to me, literally the same thing did not happen to me that happened to you, but I can make a mapping that makes it seem very analogous. It's something that we humans do all the time without even realizing we're doing it. We're swimming in this sea of analogies constantly. As the Davis Professor of Complexity at the Santa Fe Institute, Mitchell has broadened her research beyond machine learning. She's currently leading SFI's Foundations of Intelligence in Natural and Artificial Systems project, which will convene a series of interdisciplinary workshops over the next year, examining how biological evolution, collective behavior, like that of social insects such as ants, and a physical body all contribute to intelligence. So what it contributes to intelligence? So she says biological evolution, but take note, collective behavior, being social, and also having a body contributes to intelligence. But the role of analogy looms larger than ever in her work, especially in AI. And today's state-of-the-art neural networks are very good at certain tasks, she said, but they're very bad at taking what they've learned in one kind of situation and transferring it to another, the essence of an analogy. So that's just an introduction. She's going to go on and talk about it more in that article as they interview her. But notice we're swimming in the sea of analogies constantly. We don't realize that it's so much a part of how we think, how we read and understand. Rachel, did you have your hand up again? I didn't miss you.
No, I think it was Brendan next.
Okay, Brendan.
Oh, I had my hand up more for the previous photo with Obama in it. So
Did you? No, make it.
I want to take you back there.
Did you want to make a comment?
I've got to go back there. I can't remember what my comment was from back there.
Want me to bring the photo up? Will that help?
I think it was sort of a continuation of what Rachel was saying. You know, I guess when you brought up the previous story from your experience, how the technology identified the pair, and then it identified your shopping trolley. You know, it's for a piece of technology to look at that photo, and I guess as you know, at the moment it would detect a pair, but behind that pair there's a whole bunch of meaning. So I just and it's looking at Obama and pretend he's the pair. Well, but there's a whole bunch of different meanings behind that pair. So it's just I just can't see how it can be possible. Like it can detect that something is there or something that isn't there, but it can't detect the emotions, the meanings, the story. It can't figure that out. That's the problem, and that's what I guess this next person is trying to make happen with these analogies. Is that right?
Yes. So after last week's presentation, Rachel contacted me and we chatted back and forth shortly. And you made the comment, Rachel, about humour. How much analogy is in humour, which made me Google. I just Googled lame jokes, and you just saw analogy. And of course, you know, makes sense when you look at it. We do that all the time it makes things funny, but at the same time it also helps us to interact socially. It helps us to grow in our understanding and make better choices because we can transfer learning. So a child can I think by the time they're one, they've got 60,000 images in their head. So it's not enough to have the image in your head. You've got to transfer what you've learned about those images into your behavior as you develop and grow. So by the time you get to our age, there's a lot that has been stored on file that is more than just an image of a pear or an onion. So thank you, Brendan. Did you want to add anything else?
No, I think that's I'm interested into how she's going with that, because I guess that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to derive meaning behind images or with her analogies. Seems like an impossible task.
It is, and as this scientist was saying, he did this 10 years ago. 2022, they're no closer to it, and yet he's working on autonomous vehicles with vision technology, so that the cars know that there's a car in front, etc. But it's just so limited because it cannot. It might see somebody walking out on the street, but when we see that, we take in much more than the object. We can notice a lot of other things that are going on around that object. We take in more than we realize. It's so subconscious that we don't even think about it. And that's why we couldn't possibly think about it, or we're burnt out as it is thinking about what we have to think about. So it's, the brain helps us to do things that are easy. Otherwise we just wouldn't survive. It's amazing.
So I guess the limitations, even with what he's dealing with, is you know, we would see a hole in the fence and cows broken through the fence, even though they're not on the road. An AI wouldn't necessarily detect that as being a problem because it's on the side of the road. And as like, we would see that and take caution and slow down, knowing that there's no cows that are even breaking through yet, but we would like, that's just one of a million different things that we would just take caution and slow down. And yet, how do you teach a computer to do that? It would. How would you say that's a hazard when it's not necessarily in your way?
And the other thing that she brings in there is that idea of us being social creatures. So a lot of our experience and learning is because we are among others. And we take other people's, it's not just our experience, we look at other people's experience. So you know that the farmer down the road had cows get out of his paddock and you knew what happened. So that brings a whole level, another level of understanding to when cows get out of your paddock, or there's a hole in the fence and they might get out. She used quite a few photos in her book. One of them was a woman crossing a road and she had a stroller and she was pulling a dog and the dog had stopped to sniff at the post and you're 2 car lengths back. And it's amazing what your brain takes in and how you're going to respond when you know what a dog will do once it's pulled. If it's pulled, it might go it just gives you an extra, you know that dog pulling back could let go any minute and run across the road quickly because of experience, because of analogy. And that helps you to drive in a certain way. How do you get that experience into an autonomous vehicle? It just sees a dog pulling off to one way. It's not going to expect that the dog's going to go this way because the woman's pulling it. So there's lots of millions and billions of examples like that. Rachel.
I just, not to hold you up, but just more thoughts when you're talking about your pair. So those computers can identify an object, but they don't know what it tastes like. You know, they can identify a person crossing the road, but they don't understand that that person might have a walking stick, or, you know, they don't know how old they are. And I think one thing that keeps popping in my head is that predictions, I don't know if that would come under predictions, is just analogies as well. I'm not too sure, but that they can't predict.
Yes, predictions.
Yeah, like the cows, what the cow's going to do and that just all comes from experience.
Yes, and these latest technological advances are actually built on making predictions, but they're based on mathematical equations and not on experience, so that they make mistakes. We might be able to get to that today. So yeah, that's a really good point, Rachel. Is that they can predict. They can get it very wrong. So advances in narrow intelligence are amazing. The supermarkets have got to do that. They must lose heaps of stuff through those checkouts. That they'd be easy to walk out with stuff. So they've developed the technology, but that machine didn't know that I had taken extra bags in there just in case, and I didn't buy as many groceries as I thought, so the empty bag's still in the trolley. But that's okay. We fixed it. It's going to be extra work for the assistant, but things with technology, you learn by mistakes, and they're continually fixing them. It's not making them smarter. It's humans programming them. There was an amazing story just this last couple of weeks. The University of Melbourne have now got technology, voice technology, that can determine if a person has Parkinson's disease. Doctors have been doing that for years, listening to how a person speaks. And now they've got AI that can do that, not only recognize what stage that Parkinson's at, like diagnose it, but also work out how much medication that person would need according to the diagnosis. So we're not bagging AI. It's been an amazing a blessing, but yeah, there's a big downside. So somebody, I read somewhere, somebody said, it's not that AI is too smart and it might take over the world. It's that AI isn't smart enough and it has taken over the world. So what we want to look at is what isn't it smart at that's taken over. So analogies. I've been thinking, I get distracted now every time I'm reading something. I see analogies everywhere. And even when we're talking about AI winters and AI springs, that's analogies. We can feel the winter, we can feel the spring and the excitement and the new growth. There was, we talk about COVID waves, the waves of the pandemic. There was another one we'll talk about tomorrow when we look at the article from the Washington Post that Elder Parminda put up on originalism and the Constitution. It's amazing how much analogy is in that document. Okay, so analogy and common sense. Common sense is simply the ability to exercise good, sound judgment in practical situations. Common sense is your own feeling. It's not common in the sense that other people agree. It's common in the sense that it feels completely ordinary and obvious to you. So does that make sense? Brendan, you've got your hand up again. I should have grabbed you earlier.
I was just, yeah, it was a little, before you made that comment, it was more, isn't this, I guess, this overall theme of analogies, isn't that just how message operates? And isn't it just, it's parable teaching. So AI cannot identify analogies, it can't identify parable teaching. Or am I heading down a different path?
No, that's exactly what we talked about last week. If you consider Christ object lessons, and when Jesus taught in parables, he's really tapping into what is innately makes us intelligent. It's not just it's no gimmick. There's science behind what he is doing. He's forcing us to compare situations because we're built to do that. That's you know, part of our cognizant makeup. So we talked last week about Nicodemus. And when Jesus said, unless a man be born again, he shall not see the kingdom of heaven. He was forcing Nicodemus to make an analogy. And you're either going to react one of two ways. You're going to reject it or you're going to see it. You'll see it with your mind's eye. And you'll make an application. You'll see the similarities. So does that help, Brendan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so back to common sense. Why is it common? I just read the quote. What makes it common? Catherine?
So to you, the person experiencing it, it seems common and obvious to you, but it's not necessarily what everyone else actually thinks the same as you. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's not common because it's applies to everyone. It's common because it's subconscious. It's so obvious and ordinary. So you can't separate analogies and common sense. So when Nicodemus rejected the analogy, he lost his common sense. Do you want us to get back in the womb? Well, don't be silly. So they're very much connected. So what is it that we are to be afraid of? So 2022, huge year for AI. The spring started in 2012. And let's just look at a couple of things that have happened this year in artificial intelligence and see what the problems are. So this is a New York Times article, and it is from, I think, from September. Let me just check. August. Yep, August. We need to talk about how good AI is getting. We're in a golden age of progress in artificial intelligence. It's time to start taking its potential and risks seriously. So what he's going to talk about here is DALL-E. Is everybody familiar with DALL-E? It is a text, so chat. Catherine.
Oh, yes, I am familiar with DALL-E, yes.
Okay, if you'd like to explain it to everybody.
That's artificial intelligence generated art. You type in keywords that you want the art to portray. You type that in, you might type the style of art that you'd like, and then the computer brain will generate a picture for you based on that, which is award-winning art in some cases. It's been getting a lot of attention in the media, but the way it does that is based on big data. The computers have been memorizing pictures, millions of images, and it's not really understanding what it's doing, but it uses mathematics and formulas to replicate what it's seen elsewhere with keywords and stuff like that. So yeah, it's quite interesting, kind of fun.
Yes, so okay, just picking up on your language, it memorizes. But I think you qualified that. What happens?
It scanned millions or billions of images, and it's stored them on its drives. And then,
So human beings have uploaded millions and billions of images and all these pixels. So here, we're in August. So in August, so let me back up. This technology was introduced by OpenAI. Remember, OpenAI was bought by Google in 2014, and this technology was introduced in April, but it was invitation only. So you had to get on a waiting list to play around with this technology. This reporter from the New York Times got to use the technology for a weekend in August, and he had fun. So he's typed into DALL-E 2 the words infinite joy. And out popped this little alien looking very happy and satisfied. This is what the computer drew out of its vast resources to create an image called infinite joy. For the past few days, I've been playing around with DALL-E 2, an app developed by the San Francisco company OpenAI that turns text descriptions into hyper-realistic images. So, and he'll explain that he got to use it for the weekend. He'll explain how it works. He'll put up a couple of his images. I like this one here. He said a sailboat knitted out of blue yarn, etc. And he's going to go on to explain how it works. But we want to jump another month. And we're going to go to September. And a lot happens between August and September. And here is an article by the Washington Post. AI can now create any image in seconds, bringing wonder and danger. So these are some images that this journalist created. And it'll go through. None of these photos were taken by a camera. All of these images were created by the artificial intelligence text-to-image generator DALL-E, named for Salvador Dali. He was an artist, and Pixar's WALL-E. DALL-E creates images based on prompts such as a Hobbit house designed by Zaha Hadid. So Zaha Hadid is an Iraqi British architect, and if you're familiar with her work, it's very Zaha Hadid, but it's also very Hobbit, so that's quite clever, very Lord of the Rings. A woman in a red coat in New York Square looking up, etc., red and yellow peppers. So very lifelike images, just given with a few text prompts. Since the research lab OpenAI debuted the latest version of DALL-E in April, the AI has dazzled the public, attracting digital artists, graphic designers, early adopters, and anyone in search of online distraction. The ability to create original, sometimes accurate, and occasionally inspired images from any spur-of-the-moment phrase, like a conversational Photoshop, has startled even jaded internet users with how quickly AI has progressed. 5 months later, 1.5 million users are generating 2 million images a day. On Wednesday, OpenAI said it removed its waitlist for DALL-E, giving anyone immediate access. So in September, it's all in. Anybody can use it. I think you have to pay, but it's not much. There is a small fee. It has triggered an explosion of text-to-image generators. And as Catherine said, it actually won a competition. Now, the thing is, the technology is spreading rapidly, so there isn't just DALL-E anymore. If you Google it, these text-to-image generators, you'll find articles where it says top 10 text-to-image generators. There's so many being put out by companies now. The problem is, and he'll go on to explain, once the line between truth and fake is eroded, everything will become fake. We will not be able to believe anything. So that's one of the quotes he'll put in this article. There's just a few points I want to pull out. OpenAI has tried to balance its drive to be first and hype its AI developments without accelerating those dangers. To prevent DALL-E from being used to create disinformation, for example, OpenAI prohibits images of celebrities or politicians. OpenAI chief executive Sam Altman, so Sam Altman, Elon Musk and another man were the founders of OpenAI. Sam Altman's still in charge. They justified the decision to release DALL-E to the public as an essential step in developing the technology safely. You have to learn from contact with reality, Altman said, what users want to do with it, the way that it breaks. So basically what they've done, this is the argument happening in artificial intelligence at the moment, is what parameters of protections are in place. So a lot of these text-to-image generators have none. So you've got this fight, this libertarian fight of, do we place filters on our equipment? Do we have protections? Or do we just trust the public, give it to the public, and then when things go wrong, we'll fix it then? And so this is the argument. How do you regulate these things? And this is the argument you see if you're keeping an eye on what's happening in the Twitterverse at the moment with Elon Musk. He's come in and he's bought that company because of the problem with managing disinformation. There's a name for it, which isn't standing out to me. Brendan.
Oh, you mentioned it anyway. I mean, I don't see any difference between managing digital art and managing, you know, speech in social media, or you mentioned Twitter. So like, it isn't the same principle. So in one sense here, they're trying to, you know, resolve making it safe in the digital art world so they don't create false images, and yet they haven't really done a very good job in managing the words over the past 10 years. So it's the same principle. They just need to focus on the words as well that have been spoken.
Yeah, so we're following exactly. We're following the development of some of these AI technologies this year, but this is DALL-E 2. Eventually, we'll discuss chat box, the new chat boxes, so that it's text to language, and when there's no constraints on that, of what the possibilities are for disinformation. So I'll just show you a couple of things.
This just seems like,
yes,
it's like Pandora's box. Like, this is out of control.
out of control.
We haven't seen it yet. We haven't really. So when they release something like this, like DALL-E 2 and the chatbox GPT-3, which we haven't discussed yet, that means that we're not hearing what's actually still being in development. So DALL-E 2, next year it's going to be DALL-E 3, it'll be chatbox 4. What 2023 holds in AI is already in development, and people that have seen it have been, wow, they come away thinking it's magic. So what we are seeing is almost prototypes, and we get wowed by the prototypes. But they say the next 12 months in AI is going to bring amazing improvements on what already has been put out for public consumption. So here we've got, you type lawyer. So these are the things that had to fix. You type lawyer into DALL-E 2 and guess what you get? What have we got? What's our problem? Catherine.
Oh, they're all men. Yep.
All white men.
Even white men. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you type in stewards, airline stewards, they're actually all Asian females. So this is the biases that are in these systems. And why are they there? Because of all the information that has been collected and uploaded. It's what is already in society. It's not, it doesn't have its own biases. All the biases, the sexism that is in society gets uploaded into these machines. So you've got those sort of problems. Let me. Trying to find a paragraph here. The problem. Oh, I like this one. These are a bowl of soup that looks like a monster knitted out of wool. You may have seen these, but there's lots of others, lots of other sites. I'm just looking for a particular paragraph. I think I've gone past it. That's annoying when it happens. You like the avocado chair in an orange background. It's very clever. No, I must find this paragraph. Here we go. Got it. Each evolution of image technology has introduced potential harms alongside increased efficiency. Photoshop enabled precision editing and enhancement of photos, but also served to distort body images, especially among girls, studies showed. More recently, advances in AI gave rise to deep fakes. So deep fakes were actually invented in 2017 and became huge, viral in 2018. That was, I think it was like November 2017 was the first deep fake, and then 2018 it just took over. It's a broad term that covers any AI synthesized media, from doctored videos where one person's head has been placed on another person's body to surprisingly lifelike photographs of people who don't exist. When deep fakes first emerged, experts warned that they could be deployed to undermine politics, but in the 5 years since, the technology has been primarily used to victimize women by creating deep fake pornography without their consent, said Daniel Citron, a law professor at the University of Virginia and author of the upcoming book, The Fight for Privacy. Both deepfake and text-to-image generators are powered by a method of training AI called deep learning, which relies on artificial neural networks that mimic the neurons of the human brain. However, these newer image generators, which allow the user to create images they can describe in English or edit uploaded images, build on big strides in AI's ability to process the ways humans naturally speak and communicate, including work pioneered by OpenAI. So what's that saying? It's saying that it's all of these images are how we naturally communicate, how people, how we interact with each other, how these images are tagged and uploaded is taking all these natural biases that are in society and putting them into these machines. So they were really worried at first, like the article said, how this would affect politics, but 95% of deep fakes are actually pornography. Now, there's a difference between deep fake and this DALL-E. So deep fakes have been around, as I said, since 2017. It's photoshopping, taking a head, putting it on another body, etc. And you can kind of tell. But with this generator, image generator, it's in the beginning they did not want they did not allow people's faces to be used, especially for celebrities. But now it's open slather, so you can use anybody can be any name, and the computer will pull that name out of its memory, of its data bank, and will create an image of that person with whatever instructions you give that machine. So with deep fakes in 2018, what we saw was all this pornography that was surrounding Scarlett Johansson and all the male machismo was Nicolas Cage. So you had two celebrities that were used a lot in deep fakes. One pornography, one was all action man. This has taken that to another level. Because the clarity of the picture is just getting better and better, and you can put them in any situation. So we see how this is affecting women in particular. So all sorts of restrictions have been lifted, and then there's this argument. So the leaders of one particular generator, it's called Mid-Journey, have said that there's a paternalistic approach of not trusting users. So they say we don't want to have checks and balances on our machine. We want to trust the users. And so there's basically human nature being what it is, it's just used for the worst type of things. So how does this happen? We haven't looked at the chatbot yet, but if AI is going to be running huge parts of our lives, and it already it's everywhere, how do, what are the implications if most of the developers, the CEOs, the programmers, etc., how are we affected if the majority of the people involved in AI are actually men? The startup founders, they're all men. So what happens, how does that affect this technology? So I just want to bring up, how does this technology go bad, I guess, is the question we'll finish with. So in 2018, there were a group of 3 journalists, 3 women, journalists from NPR, so that's equivalent to our ABC. And they founded a startup company. Now, startup companies are, they're companies that are in the first stages of operation. So you've got an idea, you've got some technology behind you, and now you need to get it funded. So they've started this startup company and they're looking for funding. But in there, what they're wanting to create is a type of virtual assistant. If you've heard of Siri or which is the Apple assistant, this is another assistant. But what they were aiming to do was have an assistant that would help librarians and museums and students to have more culturally reliable machine-ready data on women. So that's the idea of this assistant. So in 2018, they're researching, and they spend the summer with Top Coder. Top Coder is a crowdsourcing company. So where do you get all the images, all the information to put on these machines? You go to crowdsourcing companies. There is data that is available for everyone. It's public data sources. That's what all the AI technologies use to create their inventions, to begin their technology. So you've got to access these public data sources. So what they found is that if we look at one, for example, so they went to Wikipedia. If you look at Wikipedia, it's a public data source. So connected with Wikipedia is also Wikidata. So they went into that source, and what they found was that the majority of male terms in Wikipedia, the thing we use very, very often, all the male terms are associated with science, and female terms are associated with the arts. So there was a clear distinction in Wikipedia on a gender bias in Wikidata in particular. There's another public data set called Pantheon. So Pantheon lists 70,000 biographies of famous people. So you want a biography on something, you might Google, you might go to Wikipedia, you might go to Pantheon. It's not one of the most well-known ones, but for people that research, they're aware of Pantheon. So 70,000 biographies. So they filtered for females in public figure occupations going back to 3,500 BC. And what they found, the visualization in pantheons, so the images and the descriptions of the women in pantheon illustrated that the major occupation for females in the past 5,000 years is modeling and pornographic acting. And I'm not making this up. This is the data that they've pulled out of these public resources. There is another public resource that has since been taken down, and that was created by MIT. So the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the #1 technology university in the world. They began their own public database, and they called it 80 million tiny images. So that's the name, 80 million tiny images, because they were uploading 80 million tiny images. However, what they found was that, you see, everything gets tagged. You upload an image, it's got to have a description. So when they went into all the descriptions of these women, they were either called whores or the C word. They were all sorts of names, platinum blondes. It was such a big problem, they couldn't fix it. They just scrapped the whole thing. Because to go back and untag those things or retag them was impossible. Understand, it's not the researchers. Where the whole exercise went wrong was that they didn't have the ability to scan everything, to sift all the material. So it all got uploaded without oversight. They couldn't filter or screen it enough. So people with good intentions, they're just uploading all this information, all this data that is on computers and books and encyclopedias for thousands of years, however long you've got information to be uploaded, is so embedded with sexism that you cannot filter it into these data resources. All this data is what is being uploaded into these new AIs. So it's not like it's being programmed purposely. It's just, we know that sexism is the longest, deepest, worst, most fundamental form of discrimination. So that's the information that is out there. And if you transfer that information into the machines, it's, you can't rid it of it unless you go back through all that data and retag, and it's just impossible. So MIT, they just gave up and scrapped it. So the reason we have DALL-E, the reason we have a lot of these image AI is because of the work of one particular woman. She's a brilliant scientist, Faith Alien. And in 2014, they introduced, it's called, I always say the name wrong. I want to say intranet, but it's not intranet. It was an AI revolution. So it was actually, sorry, not 2014. This is 2012, and this starts this AI spring. And she got the idea to build a giant visual resource, because she said if AI is going to get intelligent, it just needs to have data. It needs to have all this, as much information uploaded into it. So they set about doing that. I'm just trying to find the name of that. It's escaping me. Oh no. ImageNet, that's what it's called, ImageNet. So in order to get, they wanted every object in the world uploaded to the computer. So you can imagine what a task that is. They spent hours, days, months, years, a couple of years doing it when they realized they just couldn't do it all. So they outsourced it. There's this outsourcing company called Amazon Turk, and a lot of companies use it. Basically, you can be living in the world anywhere across the world, and you get paid a pittance, but you get paid to do these very menial jobs like upload data. So they got 50,000 people across the world to upload all these objects onto the ImageNet. And then there was two people, a researcher and a journalist, who wanted to demonstrate the dangers of AI. And they invented this game, and it's called ImageNet Roulette. And it took off across the internet. And what you did is you uploaded a selfie into ImageNet, and you got ImageNet to categorize you. And the categories that came back were full of sexism. So what they found were women. It wasn't just problematic, it was offensive, very offensive. And it was racist as well. But women were labelled everything from cheerleader, platinum blonde, to sluts, slovenly women, trollops and slatterns. I haven't heard the word slattern in years. But these were what was tagged onto these images. So now what they've had to do is, it's called debiasing. They've got to go back through all this material and debias it, which is a huge job. So what's the problem with AI? One of the problems is it's to make it effective, it's got to have tons of information, whether it's visual, whether it's language. Why AI is getting smarter is the computers are getting faster, and the amount of information going into them is increasing exponentially. Because they believe that we put more information into it, we make the computer smarter, we've got an intelligent machine. The problem is all that data has all those years of embedded sexism in it. So there's two examples that you're probably familiar with. One is Google. They wanted to use artificial intelligence to employ people. So you would send in your resumes and your CVs, and instead of having people go through them all, you can imagine Google's a huge company. They get tens of thousands of applicants a year. Everybody wants to work for Google. Very hard to get your foot in the door. So they develop this artificial intelligence. The problem is the artificial intelligence works on the data. And the data says most of the people that work for Google over all these years have been men. So that when it went into the CVs and the resumes, if they saw anything that indicated there was the person was a woman, it got discarded. So that was, let's see, I think I've got yes. This was a Reuters article from 2018. Amazon scrapped secret AI recruiting tool that showed bias against women. So this made the mainstream media as well. The machine learning specialists uncovered a big problem. Their new recruiting engine did not like women. And then it goes on to explain why. And they had to scrap that. I think they've got another one. They've had to debias it. Everything has to be debiased. The other one was in 2014 when Apple, if you've ever seen Apple launch a product, it's a huge event. You might have seen Steve Jobs when he was alive. He'd be on the stage, big screens. So in 2014, it's not Steve Jobs, it's one of his the directors. And have I got something for that? Yeah, here it is. why it is a tech magazine. Apple's upcoming health app is the start of something huge. Apple is reportedly poised to launch a health tracking app called HealthBook. That's fantastic news for all the app makers who have been struggling to get people to use fitness monitoring apps. Here's why. So what it's going to do is it's going to monitor all your vital signs, your salt intake, everything. This amazing app that was going to be on your iPhone, on your watch. And what could possibly go wrong? So this was launched 2014, and does anybody remember what did go wrong? It tracked your weight, your medical conditions, your high blood pressure, your diabetes, salt intake. What didn't it do? Does anybody remember? They copped a lot of flack over this. Half the population of the world has a menstrual cycle. It doesn't register at all on their health app. Everything else is there. So they had to pull and they had to tweak, etc. But why wasn't it there? Were these people just totally oblivious, or what they're doing is they're working on the data? They go to these data sources and everything is innately embedded with sexism. And they've got to go back and debias these things. So when we've got talking things about when we're talking about image to text generators, and maybe next time we'll talk about the text to language generators, which is the latest huge thing that it's that's going to be a huge problem going into 2023 and coming up to the next election, is that what is the information that has been uploaded to create these programs is faulty from the beginning. It's amazing what they can do, but it's problematic. Brendan.
So you've got, so to debias would be to try and bring equality. I guess that's what that would mean. Is that what you agree with? So here again, you've got this battle between whoever's driving this AI technology. If they're prioritizing freedom over equality, and already you can see whether it's a company or a government, you need big business, big employee base, big government to manage equality, to bring equality. If you're bringing freedom to cut costs, you wouldn't be worrying about debiasing anything. So you've got this. It's just, it's a massive problem.
It's the new frontier of the speech wars. It's raising it to another level, and this is all happening now over these new chatbots. So you know the text to image, that's fun, but none of us really play around with that kind of thing. What we will look at next time is these text to these language generators, and this is a game changer. And to debias something is just painstaking work. It's much easier just to upload everything. But if you've got to go back and retag, and then these algorithms set in. So the machines aren't thinking. The machines don't have values. They're not biased. But those algorithms are set. So and then you've got the arguments between the creators saying we need, I'm trying to think of the word, if you can think of, who did Elon Musk, content moderators. So let's sack all the content moderators and let's give everybody the freedom and the liberty to do what they please. And that's the fight that's going on between the creators at the moment. If you regulate, who's going to do the regulations? You're going to have people on the right that will say, okay, we don't want anything that will aid a person to explore their own sexuality. We don't want anything like that. So they're on the right wanting to regulate, and then you got on the left saying no regulations, freedom. And then caught in the middle is just a mess. So when we think of what we have to fear from AI are the two things that this movement has recognized. One, sexism. Two, disinformation. And that's what we'll be promoting it, especially as we go into 2023. There will be, what we've seen come out this year is just really, as marvelous as they are, they're almost just prototypes to what's coming out, what's coming around the corner. They're already planning their big releases on the next language generators. And what makes them better is just more data, more pictures, more images. What's coming out next year will apparently have 500 times more images. That's a lot when you think that there are hundreds of billions of images on these, I should say hundreds of billions of words on these computers, and they're going to increase that by 500. That's a lot. Josephine.
I was just thinking about the enormity, the scale of sexism that's been uploaded into these databases or the sources, and thinking about a message. And as we go towards Sunday law, it's quite scary. It's just, it's not just spreading word of mouth person to person, but it's through the internet. It's so fast. Velocity in which it's traveling is huge.
So we need to understand parables, because parables are going to protect us. It will be our methodology as we prove if something is true or error, true or false. Our parable methodology is going to become more and more important. But also understand that fight's going on in the world too. We're not the only ones looking at analogies and recognizing what's intelligent or not. So we're watching the fight in the world, and it is mirroring the fight within Adventism as well. But the aim of this is to dispel what is not to be feared about artificial intelligence, to embrace what is not to be feared, but also to recognize the big problems that it is creating, especially as we're going into Sunday law. The level of disinformation and the brilliance of it, I think will it'll we can kind of be a little in awe, but at the same time we have the tools. Brendan?
Brendan.
So just with what you've just talked about over the past 20 minutes or so, the scale to de-bias, the volume that's being uploaded, the data that's being uploaded, it's almost like, how do you catch up now to de-bias? It's almost now perpetuating bias. Like, how it's running away. Like, how do you catch up now? Like, I don't understand. How do you content moderate that level of data, isn't it now just perpetuating sexism, and it's built into the system and built into the algorithms, and like I don't see how that could be fixed. Like how many hours would it take to fix the bias in the levels you've just spoken about? Like I just can't, my mind can't even comprehend what it would take to fix that problem. So therefore it would perpetuate. How do you can't fix that?
And so you see articles on our news services about how there are efforts to take the sexism out of medicine. And there's so much artificial intelligence used in good ways to diagnose and treat, etc. But even all those things have been affected by the data that is uploaded into them. And we could have the media broadcast or the TMW broadcast full of articles every day. If you're watching, and I'm sure you all are, and just looking at headlines, there's always these things popping up. And it's surprising how often artificial intelligence is behind them. In that everything, it is, our world is run by it today. So it can't help but be affected. It's not evil in of itself, but it's the information over thousands of years, and especially since the industrial age, that has been uploaded. Information on women has been limited. There just hasn't, nobody's bothered. We know that those studies have been done. And so even it might not be negative information, it just might not be much information. Just like Wikipedia. There was an article, my mum sent it to me, I don't know, it was this year or last year, and it was a woman from Ballarat or Bendigo who spends every day, she uploads a story of a woman to Wikipedia, because it's really well known just how unbalanced Wikipedia is on the biographies of women. Very little about women scientists, and in any particular field. So she's doing her little bit to correct it. And that's kind of made the news. So these things shouldn't be a surprise to us. But then we have to sit back and recognize that that's all the data, whether it's Wikidata or Pantheon or that is being sourced and used for this AI. And especially if you use something like Amazon Turks, 50,000 people from all over the world, their views on politics, on culture, on sex, they're going to affect how they're going to tag these things as they get uploaded. But if you want to create something intelligent, you have to put as much information in as possible. So I hope you feel inspired in the sense that how marvelous our brain is, that we don't have to be Philadelphia lawyers or rocket scientists, but we do need to understand parables. And if we can make analogies, then that is a sign of true intelligence. When we read that, and when we can see those similarities and make applications. That's what we're being tested on. That's what Jesus was trying to do to the disciples, to the Jews in his time, and it divides. As God is using parables to try and align his people with himself, it's going to divide. It's the work of the everlasting gospel. We have an alignment problem. God's church has an alignment problem. The world has an alignment problem. So we're just looking at external evidence. So, Brendan, anything else you wanted to add?
Brendan, pane chimwe chauda kuwedzera here?
No, thank you.
Kwete maita basa.
Well, would you like to close in prayer?
Sure. Hopefully it doesn't break up. If everyone could bow their heads. Dear God in heaven, we thank you for this Sabbath day. We thank you for the things we've learned. Help us to get back to, I could say, basics with our methodology, to and just the gratitude that we have that we've learned these things. Help us to review, to practice, and to understand what we're experiencing, what we're seeing. Be with us all now as we rest, and please be with our leaders, especially at this time. And Lord, we just thank you for all your blessings. We thank you for bringing us back in line with you. Help us with that work individually, and help us to be a good influence to those we come in contact with. And Lord, we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.